Let's turn to Chris. Good morning, Chris. How are you?
Pat, good morning. It's great to be here, and it's great to be sitting in the visitor's chair because usually when I'm here on a Tuesday morning, I'm sitting where you are, which is in the presenter's chair. But today I'm a guest, which is lovely.
Yes, well, Chris actually was my mentor when I first started, and a great mentor he was. Chris, you have a story to tell about fat, obesity, something. Would you like to sort of tell us a little bit more about that story?
Yeah, when you told me that the subject for this first half hour today was obesity and the obesity epidemic, I thought, well, I'm probably one of the people that can talk about this with a great deal of authority from practical experience. Not so much watching all the many TV programmes about obesity or indeed reading about it, but from the story that I have for myself. I'm just over 61 years old now. But 10 years ago, I was a very different shape to the shape I am now. So 10 years ago, I was officially obese, heading towards severely or morbidly obese.
When you say obese, what sort of weight were you, Chris? I mean, you're very slim now.
Well, obesity is defined by a certain BMI, a body mass index. And for me, I was at the top end of the obese scale, heading towards morbidly obese. Translating that into numbers that people understand, I was 18 stone and 5'10" tall.
And you're not a big frame, are you?
Not a big frame, and there wasn't much muscle in that 18 stone. Right. It was nearly all fat. I didn't know what my body fat percentage was, but I suspect it was getting on for 50% of my frame was body fat in those days.
What got you to that stage? Was it food, drink, was it, or just not paying attention to yourself?
Well, it's a combination of the two main things, which is inactivity and eating and drinking too much, and eating and drinking too much of the wrong things.
Yes.
So I'd never been very good at sport. I've never really liked sport. Certainly up until the age of 50 or 51, it was something that I tried to avoid. I think whenever I was playing rugby at school, I always ran the opposite direction from the ball, just in case it came anywhere near me.
What a turnaround now, Chris, then.
Yeah, a bit of a turnaround.
It is.
And between the ages of about 18 and 50, I think my weight constantly increased from probably around about 12 stone all the way up to, as I say, over 18 stone, and had a body mass index to go with it as well.
How did you feel with carrying all that weight? You must have realised you were unhealthy.
Yes and no, but this was back 10 years ago, and the obesity phrase, the obesity awareness campaign that we see these days hadn't really taken off at that stage. Certainly I wasn't aware of it. Also, a lot of my friends that I was eating and drinking with and going out with were of a similar size as well. Right. So it wasn't something that really was brought home to me until I went to my doctor, and he read the riot act to me, basically.
Good.
So when I went to the doctors, when I was in the later part of age 50, he said that I was officially pre-diabetic. I wasn't diabetic, but it's a very, very small nudge to go from pre-diabetic to diabetic. It's just 0.1 movement on the scale. So I was very close to being diabetic. I had very high levels of LDL, which is the lousy cholesterol. Mm-hmm. So my blood lipids, the fat in my bloodstream, was rubbish. I was hypertensive, which meant I had very high blood pressure.
Right.
Blood pressure was
You must have felt that. You must have felt your heart racing and things, no?
Yeah, I felt pretty rubbish, but I'd felt like that for the previous 35 years.
Yeah, you did.
And I had no aerobic capacity at all. And my doctor didn't exactly say diet or die, but it wasn't far off that.
Well, he did you a big favour then, didn't he?
Yeah, he didn't say that I would be pushing up daisies in a few years if I didn't do something about it, but he did say that I would be probably looking for a very, very much diminished quality of life over the next 10 years from 50 to 60, and then he couldn't guarantee how long I'd continue afterwards unless I changed my ways and changed them in a big way. Right,
Chris, what an interesting story. So tell us now, you've been told by the doctor not do or die, but it's sort of frightening you a little bit. How did you change your lifestyle?
Oh, it's not quite diet or die, was it?
Diet or die, yeah, sorry. Yeah.
So I decided to take my health into my own hands and take responsibility for my own actions, which is kind of something I hadn't done for the previous 35 years. I did just a little bit of research, and I came across the idea of having a low-calorie diet. I didn't like the word diet, but I decided to keep a track of my calories, and I decided fairly arbitrarily, without any science to it, to cut my calories from an infinite number. well, maybe not infinite, but totally uncontrolled number, to around about 1,800 per day, and carry that on for as long as I could.
Did you get any help from your doctor, or was it just something you managed to do yourself?
I did it myself.
You did it yourself, right, okay.
And I also decided to do some exercise, because it didn't take me long to realise that losing weight was the sum product of two individual actions. One is eating less but better, and secondly is moving more. So I decided that if I get down to 1,800 calories a day on average, then that would be one half of the equation, and the other half would be doing some more movement. So I started walking more, started cycling more, and eventually I joined a gym and did sort of half an hour's worth of cross-trainer every morning before going to work.
Wow.
And I did that, and I did that for 2 years pretty much.
And how long did it take you to start losing? Oh, probably you lost quite quickly, did you?
I lost quite quickly, yeah. And in 2 years I lost just over 6 stone.
That's good.
Which it sounds like a huge amount, but in fact it's only £1 a week, and £1 a week is actually within the it's achievable by most people if they think about those two facts of that equation.
I think it's actually been able to project forward and say, okay, £1 a week, and then after about 6 months you're not losing an awful lot, but it really is giving yourself a long-term plan, isn't it?
Yeah, most people get frustrated even within the first week, I found. So that they say that the weight isn't really coming off, or it's come down and gone back up again, and people really shouldn't be looking at it on a day-by-day basis. Let me explain that. They should be looking at their weight on a day-by-day basis, but not reading it, not understanding it on a day-by-day basis. What I've done, I've developed a methodology which I look at my weight on a 5-day moving average basis. So I look at today's weight plus the previous 4 days and take that as today's reading. So that any individual spikes get ironed out that way. So every single day I make a note of my weight, and I still do that even after 10 years of doing this.
Goodness.
And I log it on a spreadsheet, and I've got a nice pretty graph as a result. But every day's weight is today's weight plus the previous 4 days' weights, obviously then divided by 5 to get a moving average. And that way, if there's an unusual day with a huge number of a huge growth, perhaps as a result of a lot of calories the previous day, then that gets ironed out over the course of that moving average approach.
I think we all know, actually, when we've had a sin day, don't we? We all know when we've eaten something maybe that wasn't quite right. But it is actually, as you say, the long-term thing. Well, Chris is sitting in front of me, and he does look amazing. And you've actually taken it to another extreme, though, now, haven't you?
Yeah, after having spent 2 years losing weight and losing fat, I did actually get in touch with a personal trainer and spoke to him at great length. He's now a good friend of mine. I've subsequently discovered he's one of the world's best fitness models and personal trainers, and we're still good friends. And he explained to me that I had indeed lost 6 stone in weight, but that was what I'd done. I'd lost weight. I hadn't lost fat. That all I'd done was losing a combination of a combination of body fat and muscle and a little bit of water as well.
So you didn't really want to lose the muscle?
No.
So did he put a programme together with you?
Yeah, we sat down together and planned something, planned an approach. Planned an approach whereby that I would do some work in the gym and modify what I was eating. So rather than just thinking about a low calorie number, increase the calorie number, but look about the different macronutrients. For example, he agreed with me that I was eating far too little protein. So we ought to change that balance and not focus totally on just keeping a low calorie number. Keep a reasonably low calorie number, but keep the protein and the fibre high within that, and keep the sugar and the saturated fats down within that, which is something that I've stuck with. So I came down from 18 stone to 12. I'm now about 11.5, which I've been for the past 8 or 9 years, about 11.5 stone, but with an increasing proportion of muscle compared to body fat.
I mean, that is something that, taking it in more simplistic terms, it is really more protein, more fibre, less fats, less sugar.
That's it, yeah.
And that really should be our mantra for everybody.
But within an overall reduced calories. The number one rule, because now I am myself a personal trainer, and that's now my living. Fitness is my business. I run a company called Fitness Over 50, advising other over 50s on their own fitness and health parameters. And the number one thing that I found is to target a level of calorie input where your calories input are less than your calories expended. So in other words, if you have the ability to track your calories, and these days life's much easier than it was 10 years ago.
Yes, I'm sure.
These days you have the health measures on an Apple phone. You have Fitbit. I use a Fitbit. You can get Garmin's as well that also have this, which track your calories over the course of a day, which is fantastic. So I can look at this my watch now and tell you that already today I have burnt 1,455 calories.
Gosh, where have you been?
I did a 5k run. I do a 5k run every morning.
So it wasn't just getting out of bed and cleaning your teeth. I say we'd all want that.
Yeah, most cereals actually are very, very laden with sugar. Even the ones that call themselves high fibre, like fruit and fibre, for example, have a massive amount of sugar in them. And it's not just sugar from the fruit, it's added sugar as well. I mean, if you're going for breakfast cereals, by far the best ones, there are three good ones. Shredded wheat, Weetabix, and oats.
Yes.
Hopefully jumbo oats, steel cut jumbo whole grain oats. Of those three, oats are the best. Shredded wheat comes second and Weetabix third. Weetabix does have some added sugar, but a very small amount. Certainly much more than you'd find in anything like cornflakes or Frosties, of course. And
so cornflakes have a lot of sugar?
Absolutely, yeah.
Do they? You see, we let our children eat these things, not realising actually that we're giving them these expectations that they must have this sugar in their daily diet, which is quite bad, isn't it?
That really comes from today's society whereby people have lots of choices they can make, but along with the right to make choices, there should come some responsibility for making choices yourself, because even though the colour coding on the front of cereal packets is fairly new, the label information, the nutrition information in a little square box on the side of the packet has been there for a long, long time.
Yes.
And there's absolutely nothing to stop you while you're in the supermarket to actually pick up the box and read that information and see how much sugar there is in there compared to how much protein and how much fibre.
I think that is very much what we should all be doing, because we have a massive obesity problem in this country. And, you know, it's going to put a lot of pressure on the NHS. It's going to put a lot of pressure on yourselves, and you're missing out. You know, life is great, but not if you can't get around. And you must have feel the difference from when you were the size you were to what you are now.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. I mean, I'm a big fan of having made that big transformation in my own body shape. A big fan of passing that information on to as many other people as I can, which I do in my personal training business, which I do on my MarlowFM health and fitness show every month, and I do on my TV series, which is called Fit Happens, which is on every now and then, but not often enough for my liking.
It's worth checking these out, because Chris really does talk from experience, and I think that is what is important. If somebody's been there and actually done it, they know that it's not as easy as we all think.
Yeah, and one of the things I tell people that come to me is that I think if you lose body fat, you add some muscle, you improve your quality of life, it's going to add years to your life and life to your years. And what I mean by that is it's made my life longer. I wouldn't expect to have made the age of 61 if I'd not changed my ways when I was 50. So I've made 61, which is great. But so it's added years to my life, and it's also added life to my years as well, because I enjoy my life enormously.
Yes, and you release the endorphins, the well-being hormone, don't you, by exercising as well?
Yeah.
And I think, certainly with the bad winter we've had, we all do need a bit of touch of sunshine. Let's get out, a bit of walking. And also, if you can't walk, it isn't that you need to walk. There are so many choices of fitness now. I can remember when I started in fitness, there was very little choice.
Yeah.
But there is something for everybody now.
Yeah, and people who don't actually want to go to the gym. One of my pet subjects, and I'm actually making a presentation about this to a big fitness expo in Birmingham in a couple of weeks' time. And one of my pet subjects is trying to get more and more over 50s to go into gyms. But there's a thing a word I think I invented it, maybe other people have as well, called gym intimidation. And I think a lot of over 50s don't like to go to gyms because they see it as a place that's populated by 20-year-olds and mirrors and loud music and flashing lights.
But it can be.
And they usually are, yeah. And the audience for my presentation in 2 weeks' time is actually an audience of gym owners, gym managers and leisure centre managers. So I want to try and get them to have a gym strategy that includes targeting the over 50s, because 50% of the UK adult population is over 50.
Yes.
And yet all of them are intimidated to go to gyms. Just imagine you had a chain of petrol stations and you devised them to only appeal to half of the population.
Yes, that's true.
Would you do that?
But actually, it's not just the over 50. I mean, I think you're right on the over 50s going to the gym. I am not a great advocate of going to the gym because I do not like standing next to a body beautiful. And you start, and it's exactly as you just said, this phobia about going to the gym. But I also think an awful lot of our young people are needing to change their ways and should be looking at diet. And certainly, if they've got children, it's something we can all do as a nation.
One of the reasons that the obesity epidemic is taking off is the easy availability of fast foods and of unhealthful foods, generally speaking. And one of the things that I like to advocate for people is when they go shopping in the supermarket is they try to buy as many natural ingredients as possible, because things without multiple ingredients tend to be more healthy for you. So, for example, if you buy some chicken breasts, it doesn't normally say contents 1 chicken breast in there. And if you go and buy some apples, it doesn't say contents apples. So if it doesn't have an ingredients list on it, that's usually a fairly good way to start in terms of planning for your shopping. And of course, there's been an exponential growth in the number of fast food outlets, which has only been matched by the exponential reduction in your ability to have to use calories to go and get that food. So in other words, rather than walking to the greengrocers, these days people will drive to the McDonald's drive-through. So they're ending up with far more calories and far more unhealthful calories with very little nutritious benefit from that particular meal, and yet they're spending fewer calories in terms of getting that because they're driving there to the drive-through or what have you, rather than walking there. So it's a double whammy. It's both sides of the equation are being eroded, and that's really happened in the past 20 to 30 years, probably about 50 years in the US. And that's really why the obesity epidemic is taking off. People have access now to highly calorific but food of low nutrition benefit, energy dense.
It's a quick fix, isn't it?
Energy dense, which means it's lots of sugar but low benefit. And equally, people can get to it quicker by driving or by having it delivered by a delivery service.
I think we owe it to our children as well, because, they are getting a lifestyle that we do not want them to have. Chris, thank you so much. Would you like to tell us, in case anybody wants to get in touch with you, where they can get in touch with you? Want more advice on diet or more advice on fitness?
Absolutely. There's a lot about me and what I've done, my own fitness transformation, and the advice I give for other people. It's all on my website, which is fitnessover50.co.uk. So you've got my email address on there as well, so you can get in touch. fitnessover50.co.uk. I'd love to hear from any of the listeners. Any questions they have, any thoughts, comments, just get in touch with me.
Thank you so much again, Chris.